Hello, everybody. It's your girl, Angie, and I'm back again with one of my wonderful interviews because I interview wonderful, awesome people who are doing great things in the world. And so today, I want to introduce you the creative behind Reflektion Design, Anitra Terrell. She designs decor for culturally inspired people who love unique and colorful pieces, like myself. These pieces are reflective of who they are as an individual, and using a curated approach to sourcing textiles and a discerning eye for pattern. So say goodbye to your humdrum decor and hello to decor that sparks conversation. So welcome, Anitra. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so glad that you're here. I want everything on your back wall.
It's hard. Some days it's tough to give it away. It's up on the website. Some days I want to keep it all. But thank you for having me.
Oh, yes. I'm so glad. So everybody, side note, Anitra and I met, but we didn't know we met because I saw her in the audience of, I don't know if you've heard of it, it's called Creative Live, creativelive.com. You can go check it out. And they do different trainings, and you can be in the audience. And there was a training, and I remember this awesome lady that was in the audience, and she was cool. She was always asking questions, use as an example. And so then when I was on social IG, I was like all looking for all this cool stuff. And I'm like, oh, these pillows are so cool. And I'm like looking at this account. I'm like, wow, this lady looks really familiar. And it kept bugging me for days. I said, I think she was the one on Creative Live. And so then I sent her a message. I'm like, excuse me, you don't know me, but were you on Creative Live? And she was like, yes. And so then I was like, hey, all right, cool. I already felt like I kind of knew her a little bit. So I'm so glad that we were able to actually have a live conversation.
Me too. I've been looking forward to it.
Yeah. So to get us started, so sometimes, usually I ask people, because I like to do journaling prompts. And today's prompt was, if these walls could talk. So when you hear that, what's the first thing that kind of comes to your mind? If these walls could talk, what would they say?
Honestly, the first thing that comes to mind is our song.
Sorry, say it again.
I said, honestly, the first thing that comes to mind is the Kendrick Lamar song, If These Walls Could Talk.
Oh, okay. Hey.
I love music, and so normally a music reference is always floating around in my mind. I listen to music all day, every day while I work. So that song comes to mind. And so if any of your viewers have listened to his album, I would say go check that out. But outside of the song, These Walls Could Talk, I would say what else comes to mind is they would say she didn't give up. Mm-hmm. She's still working. Mm-hmm. There's still more to do. And she's going to do it.
All right. That's really positive and nice. Yeah. It's good to hear. So cool. And if you haven't heard that song, then you know to go check it out if you want to be nosy and find out more.
I'm telling you, most like someone will say so to me, and my response will be a song lyric, like, well, it's taboo. What can I say?
I know, right? Mine, I always go to Color Purple, which is my all-time favorite movie. I will go to sleep quoting things. If I get mad, I'll have to be like, all my life I had to fight. I had to break out. I just love Color Purple. I don't even know. I saw it in high school, and it resonated with me. It's so deep and profound on so many different layers. But we're not here to talk about, Color Purple, but I get you with the references. So my next question for you is, could you tell us a little bit about your business? How did you get started? I did read a little bit about your trek to Ghana in 2006, and I'm sure, I don't know if you've been back since, but.
So I went to Ghana in 2006. At the time, I was a college professor, and I went there to work with faculty at the University of Cape Coast. I taught marketing, And so I went there to work with their faculty to develop courses in marketing, but also in nonprofit marketing, because that's always been where my passion has been. I love business and I love marketing, but I always like to use those skills in the arts or for nonprofit organizations or museums. So I went there to work with the faculty to develop classes. I also went as a textile buyer for a museum in the city I was living in at the time. They were one of the stops on a Smithsonian exhibit that was traveling through about kente cloth. And so they found out that I was going to Ghana, small town, so everybody knows what's going on. So they got word, they contacted me and asked me if I would be willing to buy textiles for them so that they could keep some in their permanent collection once the exhibit moved on to the next city. So of course I was like, yeah. So during the day, in the mornings, I would be at University of Cape Coast working with the faculty. In the afternoons and evenings, I would be in all the different marketplaces, buying textiles and going to different villages and artisan communities where they made a decor cloth and kente and mud cloth, all these different beautiful textiles. And that is where I was immersed in the culture of textiles, African textiles. I was familiar with them, of course. I enjoyed African textiles. But it wasn't until I was able to see how they were made, to see the weavers on the looms making kente stoles, and to see the artisans hand stamping the dimple cloth, to where I was just like, I love everything about this, everything about this. But that was kind of like a moment in time. It happened, it was amazing, it was impactful, and then I left. I was in Ghana for about a little over 2 months, and then I went back and continued to teach. And then eventually left higher education, moved into some other fields, and fast forward to 2013, I was laid off from working at a for-profit college that I worked at. And so at that moment, I started thinking about what do I want to do next. And so as to help me, you spoke about prompts a few minutes ago. One of the prompts that I helped me figure that out was I asked myself, what were the moments in my life where I was happiest? What was I doing? Who was there? What was going on? And my trip to Ghana kept coming up, kept coming to the top, resonating over and over and over. And so I said, clearly it's something about that trip, something about the experiences that I had with textiles that I enjoy, but what do I do with that? Because you could go in a million different directions with fabric. So one day I was in the store looking for bedding, and I'm going through the aisles. We've all been there, up and down the aisles, and you're like, okay, all this is cute, but it doesn't really, speak to me. It doesn't reflect who I am. And oftentimes we'll just settle, like, oh, this pattern's cute enough, or this is nice enough. This will do, this is nice. Instead of looking for things that immediately put a smile on our face. You immediately have a reaction to it. And that was the light bulb moment. It's like, this is it. I'm big on creating wonderful spaces in home. And so I just put the two together and started Reflektion Design in late 2014. And it's been an interesting journey. Anyone that's started a business will tell you it's been an interesting journey that I'm still grateful to be on these years later. And the brand has evolved from pillows to tableware to wall baskets. We were talking earlier. It's evolving to making face masks and tote bag, all these different things. But the fabrics have remained. The foundation is still African textiles. So Ankara fabric, mud cloth, kuba cloth, and some other types of African textiles that I've enjoyed getting to play with, so to speak, these past few years.
That's nice. Well, cool. And so, so now, so you sew everything, you do all these things by hand. Do you have like any helpers or like helping you, or are you just like you're the one that's doing everything?
Yeah, I have several ladies that I work with throughout the year in different cities. Mm-hmm. As a business owner, I learned very quickly that I can't do it all.
Yeah.
I cannot, and I should not do it all. Because as the business owner, your attention has to be on other things. Exactly. And the best use of your time is not necessarily making the items. Now, of course, you can make them in the beginning because you need to have an understanding of the entire process. And you need to have a very clear vision of what you want the end product to look like so that you can instruct someone else to do it. But in terms of day-to-day, spending 12 hours a day at the sewing machine or pouring candles or whatever your creativity might be, for me, it made more sense for me to outsource the production. And in that way, I can take a step back and actually create product lines, look at different fabrics, create a story, and then develop that story and hand it over to the seamstress and say, this is what I need. These are all the different colorways. This is how it's supposed to look. This is the kind of finish that I want. Now, of course, sometimes I still make things because I feel like as creatives, we should. Mm-hmm. And so I make a lot of the jewelry, a lot of button earrings, a lot of the necklaces. But in terms of larger scale production, like the pillows and the tote bags, I had to outsource it out. And I mentioned in different states because, again, as a business owner, you have to think, you have to have contingency plans, right? Mm-hmm. You can't have seamstress because if that person goes on vacation or, if they get sick, you're stuck. So I have one on the West Coast, I have one on the East Coast, the Northeast, and now I have one here in the South since I moved to Georgia. So just lining those things up has helped tremendously. And it takes time. That didn't happen overnight. Let me just say that up front. I didn't start overnight having people make things, but you'd be surprised how much more you get done when you delegate that work and how much more creative you can be when you start to delegate some of those tasks. And it may not cost you as much as you think as well to delegate some of those tasks.
Mm-hmm. I just want to say congratulations because that's the level that all business owners want to get to. And so that is just awesome to hear like that. Congratulations. When you start a business and you realize what you have to do to scale, to grow your business, you get to a certain point and you have to start outsourcing things. It's a good thing, but I just want to say congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you. Recently added a seamstress in Ghana, just to bring this back full circle. Mm-hmm. And that was one of my happiest moments because, again, it's the fabrics come from Ghana, but they're brought here to the U.S. and the products are made, which is fine because I also believe in giving employment to people here in the U.S. But to get to a level where I can split some of that work up, like there's things that are made exclusively in Ghana, and there's things that are made here in the U.S. That was when I got to a point where I was like really proud of, where I am thus far in the business to be able to bring it back completely full circle. Now I'm crossing my fingers that I can actually go to Ghana as soon as humanly and safely possible.
I know I wanted to go in September and it was like, yeah. I definitely want to go back and visit friends. So hopefully by 2021 we'll be able to go. I'm like January. January 2021. Okay. I mean I can hold off till then. They're like, come on. So my next question is, so when COVID hit, a lot of people had to pivot and make changes. And you mentioned a little bit about the face masks. How has your business changed since the pandemic? I mean, and it's still in existence, so it's not like it's past tense. But,
yes, I have definitely had to kind of take a step back and think about what are the areas of my business that have needed attention for some time that I've neglected to look at or handle. And now that I have all this time at home, what are those projects, or what are those, what are those areas that need attention, or what are those products that I've been wanting to develop for a while that I now have the time to really give some thought to. So the immediate need was masks, and it's interesting because I had sent a bunch of fabric to Ghana to have hand fans made. And I think I have one here. Tell.
I know, I love mine. I was like, I wish I would have bought like 500 more of those. Now I know where to
Um,
get them.
but I sent the fabric to Ghana because I was just developing a relationship with the artisan group. And so I have a bunch of fabrics here. I'll just send you guys a few pieces and we'll just get some fans made and we'll see how it goes. But before the fans even arrived to Ghana, COVID hit. And so then I started getting, increased demand. Can you make face masks? Like immediately. And so I contacted them and said, hey, I know you just got a shipment of fabric to make fans, but can you take that fabric and make face masks instead? Or just let me know what fabrics you already have, obviously, because there's tons there. And let's make masks. Let's shift gears. And of course, I didn't know anything about making masks. That's not my wheelhouse. So I like to kind of do a little homework before I just immediately jump into doing something. And so first I spent some time kind of looking into, what's the best size for the mask? What's the best, should it have a pocket for filters? What's the best type of system for to go behind the ears? Or should it tie behind the ears? And so the ladies that I work with in Ghana were really great about kind of, talking back and forth about putting those together. So the first shift was masks. And then I remember talking to quite a few friends with children, and they all were saying, what are we going to do with our kids during this time? We don't have, they're not in school. We're going crazy here. What are we going to do? And so I started thinking, well, I have a lot of projects that I've done around the house with African print fabric. Let me put some activities together and offer my fabric scraps by the pound, along with 8 or so activities and projects that you can do with your kids. And that did really well. Everything from, covering light switch covers with African print fabric to making lavender sashes. And these are all things that I had. I have dried lavender here because I used to sell eye pillows. And so I said, well, the lavender is just sitting here, and I have a whole bunch of fabric scraps, and I know some different projects that people can do little to no cost. And so, again, I shifted gears and started, cranking out, different projects and putting fabric scraps together and, zip locking bags of lavender and shipping them up to people and just kind of being present. Like, what is going on in the present? What are people's needs in the present? Listening when you're talking to your friends and family about what their pain points are, what their needs are, and thinking, how can I provide something of value in this moment to help people in what they need, but also that makes business sense for me to do as well. So those are two big ways that I've been, maintaining during this situation, this COVID environment. And lastly, I would say I kicked off a blog series called How We Live. And that, again, was a project that I had had on the back burner 3 years, that been on my mind. And I said, you know what, now is the time. Now that we're all home, now that we're all actually kind of looking around, like, you know what, it's time that I, spruce up my place a little bit. Why not show people how we live, how people across the African diaspora live, how we live uniquely, how we live similarly, but also the differences amongst things that we have in our homes. Because I love a good house tour. You watch those home decor networks and you see people's tours of their homes, but very few of those tours feature people who look like us. So I said, you know what, I'm going to create this new blog series that, highlights people from different walks of life, different careers, men and women. And they give us kind of an inside look into their home, photos of the art that they have, their living rooms, their gardens, backyards. So I just kicked that off a couple of weeks ago, and it's been amazing. It's like pouring into me with seeing their creativity, but also allowing me to pour into others by giving them inspiration and exposing them to design and decor with an African or a cultural aesthetic. So that's what I've been doing, keeping busy.
Yeah, that's great. Because now people are at home And so now I'm kind of looking around like, how can I make this cozier? You know, and make it more like me. Like I used to have my soap business here, so I had to have a she shed. And so it's like been sitting back there, kind of like a few boxes still in there. And I was thinking the other day, I was like, ah, I have a she shed. It's not burned down. It's still back there. I can
Okay.
turn this into an art studio. And like all of a sudden I'm all excited. I'm like, I'm so excited to like, now I'm gonna turn it into an art studio. Something that I was only like dreaming about before. Like you see other people have these little art studios. And so yeah, so COVID has really, I see like from your example, it has made you very, even more artistic and more creative inside your business and also on a personal level. And then you're
Yes.
able to take all of that together and like serve it up on a platter for someone else to be able to learn and to be able to have these things as well. So that's
Yeah, it's been so interesting, you know, products that I had thought about, you know, phasing out over the next few months. Now that people are home and they're assessing their environment, a lot of those products have just started to, you know, become very popular again, which for me has been great because they've been some of my favorite products, like the pillow covers and the baskets and the spoons, the wood spoons. It just takes people being still, which I think has been a huge byproduct of this situation. It's allowed us all to be still for once, and to begin to think about what we want our surroundings to look like, because this is all that we have for the time being until it's safe to go out and about as freely as we used to. So now you're like, well, this is where I'm going to be the majority of my time now. It needs to feel right. It needs to look good. It needs to be a reflection of who I am. I need to be happy in this space if this is what it's going to be for the next few months or so. So it's caused a resurgence in, you know, products that otherwise probably would have been phased out, but it's also helped me to realize, you know, don't count them out just yet, which has, you know, been a bit of advice, you know, in my business that I've had to realize. Don't count your products out yet. Sometimes it's not the time for them to go. It might be just the time to reinvent them or present them in a different way, or have a different conversation about them with your customers. Maybe the previous conversation wasn't resonating with them because they weren't interested in that. But if you rephrase the message, it may hit in a different way. So that's kind of what I've been experiencing right now. And it's been awesome. I'm so grateful, so grateful.
Yeah. And so some of you who are listening or watching the video, if you don't have a business, it's still like basic principles that you can still apply. Like, you know, if you have a closet full of clothes, you type of person like to go out, you know, check out the sales. That was your thing to do before COVID. Now you can actually just shop in your own closet, right? You can create a capsule wardrobe. Then you can go to Reflektion Designs. You can like go now pick out a few little pieces that could jazz that up, right? So now from the waist up, you know, got look good because you're on Zoom, right? So you can have these different things that you can now take that's in your house that you're like, oh, you always go through my closet, and you haven't. Like, spend a weekend shop. Like last weekend, I was shopping in my own closet. Like, oh, I forgot about this. My mom's like, that still got tags. I'm like, I know, right? So it's like you're always reinventing. So the things that Anitra is saying about she's applying in her business, you can apply just in like your everyday life. And if you got kids too, she has things where you can go and also could learn about fabrics and from Ghana and what they're about and how you can implement those things inside your house. And so it's really good. So thank you for sharing that. So if people want to connect with you and learn more about your blog series, like how can they do all of that?
You can find me at reflektiondesign.com, and that's a reflection with a K and not a C. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook at Reflektion Design. The blog series, How We Live, lives on the website. So you go to reflektiondesign.com, click on blog, and it will take you right to the newest post.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come and talk with me and everybody else too. I'm so excited. It was so great to sit down and talk and just share experiences. So everyone, if you want to connect, you have all the information to do so. We thank you kindly for taking the time to spend with us to listen in, and hopefully you will be able to visit her site and really find some really cool pieces that you can add into your house. They're great conversation stoppers. Even if you're doing Zoom and they're like, what's that pillow in the back? You can tell them all the story behind it. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you later. Bye.